I think the crazy thing about life is just how it doesn't stop. Whenever there is a significant event, everything kind of just keeps going. And I think digesting the fact that someone can screw you over and keep progressing while you kind of have to like restart and take a different stance in life. I really wanted to create a space where we could talk about some of the hardships that we go through, but not always being super serious, you know? Like, I think life in itself can be a lot, but sometimes, oftentimes actually, we balance more than one thing. It's not like we're just focusing on self-healing without going to work or without having relationships. We might not have intimate relationships, but we still have a friendship. We still probably have a relationship with a sibling, a parent, a cousin. To me, it's all kind of the same thing. It's a relationship that you have to put work into. And sometimes you have unhealthy habits in those relationships that you'd want to work on. And that's kind of what I want to do. That's kind of the space I want to create. That's why I called it Plant Space, because we're constantly growing, constantly changing. If you have followed me for a while, you know that I went through a huge change. I'm no longer in Los Angeles, and I think that's what I really wanted to dedicate this episode to. I kind of just wanted to talk about some of the obstacles that happened through all of that. So if you don't know me, I was in a very long relationship. I dated this person for 3 years to the T, and it just ended in a way that I wouldn't have expected. Right before, it was about a month and a half before everything happened, we had just signed this 13-month lease to a really expensive apartment. And then just the way they went about manipulating me into breaking up versus the situation that was happening behind my back, they were basically cheating, but they like just worded it in a way that was like my fault. And I believed it, you know, like it was an obstacle for those few days to really digest all those emotions and then be faced with new information that then brought new emotions, and then having to decide, okay, I made a lot of mistakes relying on people for different things, and now I don't know what to do, because I had to decide, like, am I going to stay in Los Angeles and live with some random person, or like, I don't know, just be really miserable? I'm not even going to be able to audition, have to find, it's just a lot, have the potential of running into them, like, I just wasn't into it. So I made the decision to move. I think that was one of the big times that your like inner childhood breaks. I'm 24 right now, and after like 21, you really start to understand that you're not a kid. And to me, it was such an insane feeling, because you're not a child. These things happen and you have to fix it. Or you can run back home with your parents and have them help you, but that wasn't really the strongest choice for me. Going back to my parents would be going to an area that I'm not really comfortable in. I don't really thrive in that environment. So I made the decision to move to Dallas. I'm near Dallas, but I'm basically there all the time. I felt like it was a good city. It's pretty big. It's not small. There's a lot of different opportunities. It's artsy. Although most jobs pay very low, there is a lot of potential in Dallas to find good paying jobs. I have been blessed to find 2 very good paying jobs, so I'm fine right now, which is nice. I haven't really had time to digest those emotions, which is an interesting conversation for me, because is it wrong? Is it right that to go through something so traumatic and not necessarily stop to process everything? Because for me, it's difficult, because in a sense, it's kind of like giving them power, and it's, who has time for that? You know, when somebody kind of kickstarts your life in a different direction, you don't have time to focus about them and the issues they cause. I think about potentially dating as well, and I'm like, oh no, I've been in very long-term relationships, for a very long portion of my life. In a way, it's a blessing, but in another way, it's a huge curse because I think about the years of my life that I essentially focused on other things, and it does irritate me sometimes because I don't even talk to any of them. I think I did learn and grow a lot through our experiences, but if anything, it irritates me that I needed a partner to experience those things, as if I couldn't go out in the world and experience things myself. So after getting cheated on and moving, I kind of broke away from that mindset of needing somebody by my side. I just packed it up, moved to Dallas. I went on a vacation in New York completely by myself. Thankfully, I got to stay with some amazing friends that I met, but it was all scary. I didn't really know them like that, and anything could have happened. The people that I went out with, I had no idea who they are, but I played it, I looked at my environment, I felt like I was safe, and I made the choices that I felt best, served me, and I had a great time. It really taught me that you can't let fear of individualism stop you, because what? There's a whole world out there to experience, and it blows my mind that there's people out there that are like, I'm fine here. Which, kudos to you, congratulations. I don't think it's like a bad thing. It just blows my mind because for me, I don't know. I can imagine myself staying planted somewhere, but at the same time, this is an entire planet. It's huge. I would want to live and visit and experience as many different aspects of this world as possible. And even when it comes to like crazy natural things, the other day we had this insane weather moment here, and my brother and I were genuinely like, this is crazy. There's like wind everywhere. The trees like slamming on our roof. There's branches that were falling. It genuinely seemed like it was gonna pick my house. Like the walls were shaking for moments. It was wild. But even that, I'm like, okay, cool. I experienced a whole experience. And then one time I was in Washington and we were stuck in this like blizzard, but the blizzard I was in then was unlike the one I was in New York. And you see what I mean? Like things like that I think are super cool, that you can bounce around from different locations and be like, yeah, I experienced something similar in San Francisco actually. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's so cool because it just is. And especially because a lot of these vacations or experiences weren't like insanely budgeted experiences. That's something that my friends tried to complain about a few times, that they would be like, Ramon, why would you go on travel to a whole destination if you don't have an excessive amount of money to experience things? But for me, I drove from here to Cali, I would stop, and odds are I'd probably just sleep in my car because, take a little wake up, keep it pushing, you know what I mean? So I think about traveling, and I'm like, why would I not do the same thing? If I would sleep in my car to go somewhere, and if I don't have an excessive amount of money, but San Francisco is 4 hours away, yeah, whatever, I'll just sleep in my car by the beach. That's a whole experience in itself, you know what I mean? It's not, especially because in the event of an emergency, I could just get a hotel. Like, let's say the weather got crazy. Okay, whatever, I'll just get a hotel. I prefer not to, but if I needed to, then I guess, whatever, right? I just feel like that hasn't ever kept me from experiencing something, being low on money. I think because I grew up in an environment where we didn't really have a bunch, but we made it work. I don't really ever remember being like hungry or anything. I do remember maybe the power gun got cut off for like a day or two, but never. They always made it work, and to me that just makes me understand that like, yeah, no, you can make it work. If they made it work for me and my siblings, who they were not the craziest, then what? Absolutely, I can make it work. And it's just me by myself. I don't have to take care of anyone. I can sleep in a car. I can protect myself. You know what I mean? My windows is tinted. I think one of the other things that really shattered my reality was it's an odd feeling when you really step out of your child self. That person still creeps in every now and then as you continue to develop, but it's odd because out of nowhere, you just kind of don't feel as passionate about certain things as you used to. Like, I remember I used to want to argue as much as I wanted to, and now I understand the value of time and energy, and I'm like, why? You know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm still growing in my own way and trying to get better at certain things, but as much as I can, I have to ask myself, like, why are you arguing right now? There's nothing to, be an argument. It's understanding energy and time. And I think just the way that you value different things changes too. And I mean, maybe that's super independent, right? Like, I'm an artist, so my relationship with art is different. The experiences I've had in museums and the way that they changed me are different. But I don't know. I'm assuming we must all have this similar feeling, right? Like, this odd sensation that you're not a kid anymore, you're an adult, kind of feeling like your brain is a little more solid. It's weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just all the self-help books, but I feel as though I'm in a place where I can make a lot more clear decisions. And again, that is why it's important to find gratitude in these huge obstacles, because when I got cheated on, I could have been like, okay, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to make it work and I'm going to keep auditioning, But at the same time, I was so broken. There was so much that I had gone through, and to have those blows back to back to back, to lose a good friend, and then another good friend, and then another good friend, and then a death, and then another good friend, and then another death, and then very close soon, cheated on 3 years, and then I think the misunderstanding with that event, that people think I was heartbroken because of the person that I had lost. Although those emotions were real, and that to me, like, I meant a lot of those things, it was never the person that made me then sad. Like, getting broken up with, yes, that was difficult, right? And then finding out, like, the back end of it all, no, absolutely not. It then became this anger of my own value, because it was hard to understand and reciprocate that this person that claimed to have cared about you so much would betray you that intensely, that rapid too, which I know a lot of people have the understanding that if something happens within, as soon as the words are uttered that we're done, I can go do whatever I want, which, okay, sure, right? But in my perspective, this wasn't like a 1 month thing, right? Like, it's not like we were talking for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3, 4, 5, 6, a year. This was 3 years. That is a very long time. That's the longest relationship for the both of us. So for me, I felt as though I would have gone about it like, hey, I'm not feeling these emotions as intense as I'm sure you are anymore. I don't want to remove myself from this quite yet. However, I feel these things, and I think you should know, because I genuinely feel these things. So then I can be like, okay, cool. Either I can, like, work on said issues, but I know now, right? Like, this might come to an end. I can then make moves for myself to individualize myself. When I broke up with my ex of almost 2 years, not even 3, I remember telling him, hey, by the way, like, I think we should take steps to, like, be a little more independent, because I don't know if I like where this direction is going. And we did. We took steps to be a little more independent. By the time that I broke up with him, which was a little spontaneous, we had already made the decisions and made the moves to be okay, because we're adults. Neither of us wanted to fuck each other over. But with this person, he had no disregard to anything that had to do with me. And that's what really hurt me. That it was like, damn, I cared about you beyond intimacy, like as a human, your safety, your care, like just you as an existing being. And for that to then turn around and to me would seem one day and be like, I literally, in other words, I don't care what happens to you. It was a little intense. I don't think I know I didn't make the wrong decision of moving, because that's something I thought about a lot. If, when we're facing obstacles like that, we can overreact and just be like, boom, this is what I'm doing. But no, I couldn't have imagined myself continuing in LA. If you guys live there, I know it can be a very superficial place. It is a very lights on area. And as much as they claim to, love individualism, they don't love individualism. They love individualism once that individualism is exploited, essentially. For example, Aaliyah, I feel like I've always loved her, right? Like, she's great. In LA, I feel like people would hype that up to an extent, but not how they would now that Aaliyah core is a thing. Aaliyah's always been that bitch. And sure, some people in LA are going to agree, because obviously that bitch is that bitch. But the extent that it's like, period, Aaliyah core now, a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of other people like it, because that's just the place that LA is. It's not like a diss on her. It's more of an example to show you, like, people will entertain something more when other people like it, and it's more like in front of the media. I just can't. I wasn't in a mindset to continue that grind. I made the mistake of investing a lot of energy into that relationship. So when it all came to an end, I saw a quote that said I had given them the best of myself, that when it all came to an end, I was left with the rest. And that honestly was really true, because I went really far in that relationship to amplify that person, to educate that person, literally taking them under my wing. And everything just was like, boom, you can go and do whatever you need. You know what I mean? Like, it was it was rough. Pairing that with all of the lost friends, I just couldn't imagine myself being there. I am naturally an aggressive person, so I couldn't imagine myself shopping and then like seeing them walk by. I would have assault charges pressed on me, you guys. It's not even funny. At that time, not now, it's different. But at that time, absolutely not. There was no way. I already knew what I would do. I always said I would throw a glass of wine at her and then beat him up, because I know he would want to defend her, because I just threw a glass of wine at her. And I wouldn't like want to do it that messed up either. As much as I'd want to get her in the eyes, I'd be like, boom, on your dress or something, right? And then he would want to get up and defend her, because he'd be like, how dare you? And then I'd rock his shit, because he can't fight. Like, and I know he knows that I would win. So I just feel like that would have been something that would have been really satisfying to myself. So with that information, I couldn't stay there. I just couldn't. It wasn't healthy for myself. I needed to train. I couldn't be in classes knowing that the people that I just went through all these things with would be there as well. It was just a lot, and for what? I don't even love it like that. I've always wanted to live in New York. It's just really scary finding the benefits of intense, chaotic, negative situations. I really had to learn to trust myself in this situation. I lost a lot of my things. I kept a lot of my things. I had to make a lot of very quick decisions, because I didn't want to go through moments of depression, living, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to make sure I was constantly making moves to better myself and better my environment, because he was not going to take everything from me, especially because that person has like parents that help them, right? Like, the way that they did it, they already had assistance for myself to get all the applications and all the things going. And then on top of that, when they had to then leave, they have a whole ass other person they can depend on. Whereas for me, I don't have any of those resources. It's just me, period. Like, I have to make these things happen. So it really made me understand I have to make these things happen. I can be really hard on myself sometimes and get upset because I feel like I've taken steps back. But at the same time, I think about how I would have reacted to success in that mindset. And I don't think it would have been positive. I think a lot of it would have had pretty wild outcomes. And I think now that I'm in a position to grow myself as an artist and as a human, but this time as an individual without anybody's influence, I'm actually really excited. I know it was really traumatizing and a really difficult thing to go through, and I probably should sit down and reflect on all the emotions that it caused. But at the same time, there was just so many benefits out of it that it was hard to stop. It's definitely not been easy. I'm sure for them, they have no care in the world. I mean, truthfully, they didn't really have much going on there in that mindset anyway, so I'm sure it's not that difficult to lessen what you're thinking about. But for me, I tend to think a lot, so it's been a little more difficult, but not impossible. I've also worked on a lot of different aspects of my health and my relationship with fitness. Sometimes it's my health base, and sometimes it's you want to go into influencing and acting and etc. You gotta work out, boy. You gotta pull up. You have to eat well. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that you should be doing, and I'm doing, and that makes me really happy, which is why I'm excited to keep going with this, because for me, I really want you guys to interact with this as well. I want to have segments where I can read what you guys are working on and different tools that you guys use to improve yourself, and what new weekly challenge changed your mindset. Small things like that or big things like that are sometimes difficult to find. I know I'm constantly trying new things to keep me productive and to keep me focused and engaged in my work. I mean, this in itself is something that I've been trying to do for a very long time, but it's really easy to get distracted, especially when we have all of these softwares essentially that are designed to distract us, like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. I find myself scrolling. It's so hard. I made myself a rule a while back that I wouldn't touch social media until 10 a.m. and then I would get off of it after 8 p.m. Once I actually started following those rules, it made me feel as though 10 a.m. was far too late and 8 p.m. was far too early. But I keep telling myself 8 p.m. that's late. It's not in the sense of like living, it's not late, but I mean, it's 8 o'clock. You should either be focused on, I don't know, working or doing something productive with your time, whether that's reading or de-stressing. Scrolling on social media isn't necessarily a productive thing to do. It doesn't really do anything. It can definitely be a tool, but for me, more often than not, I find myself watching videos that truthfully I didn't even want to watch. Like, people arguing, I don't want to see that. I don't want to get angry. I don't want to feel those emotions, but I want to see it at the same time. I wouldn't have seen it if I wasn't scrolling on TikTok. So to me, the solution is just stop scrolling, because then you can say, okay, don't stop, have more of a willpower. But why? You're still distracted. You go read a book, go play the piano, go draw, go experience something. There's life. I just feel like there's much more things you could be doing than scrolling all day. I'm not saying don't scroll, but for hours, that's a very long time to just sit on a phone and scroll. Especially as a claimed content creator. If you are spending more time scrolling on social media than you are posting on social media, and you claim to be a content creator, you should kind of be guilty, because unless you're taking a hiatus, then why are you scrolling more than you're posting? Is your relationship you like to watch or you like to post? Because if you like to watch, you don't have to pretend that you like to post so that you don't feel guilty that you like to watch. Just watch. Or focus on posting. There are people out there that don't really care about it, but if it's something that you're passionate about and you're not making steps to improve in these categories, then why are you watching? It just doesn't make sense. It's a thing that I fall into too. It's not easy either. I've had that like iPhone hack where you can adjust the time that you can be on an app, and then it'll pop up a notification that says, no, you've scrolled for too long. You can't do it anymore. And I would always disregard, I'm going to keep scrolling. You don't tell me what to do. I understand what I did to try to stop me, but I make my own choices. Past me, bye, get out of my way. I'm going to keep scrolling. I know. At that point, it's on me, but I know I'm not the only one. It's something I'm working on. I'm just saying, someone has to mention it. But so far, Texas really hasn't been that bad. I thought it would be way worse than it's been. I thought I would deal with way more homophobic people. I thought I was going to be like attacked on a much more of a regular basis where people would be mean to me. Or the other night, for example, multiple nights actually, I've gone out dressed in heels and like a crop top and way more flamboyant than most dressed here. And I didn't have any negative experiences. The first time I actually had a negative experience with somebody physically doing anything was in New York. To my surprise, I didn't think that would happen. I mean, it is what it is. That doesn't change my perspective on the city. I'm just saying, I've never had anything happen here in Texas. That's not disregarding the fact that it happens. Personally, I just don't understand where I know where my fear of that comes from. That's a whole separate conversation, a whole nother episode. But Dallas gets a good 8 out of 10. It's a nice city. I don't hate it. For me, as someone that likes to experience things, it's just not for me. I was talking to my coworker and they were saying how there's a lot to do here. And although, yeah, sure, there's a lot to do, there's a different feeling of it's my day off, I'm gonna go grocery shopping, waking up, walking to the grocery store because everything is walkable over there, or in a trans, it's super easy to go places. And then walking past the cafe that has like an open mic and hearing the most insane music from the inside of the cafe, walking in, buying a shitty $8 latte, but then hearing the most incredible vocals on a guitar that it's like 8 in the morning. You would have never expected to be in this scenario, but you're there. And it's awesome, and it's free. And then afterwards, you can go up and connect with this artist and talk about what you can do, what they can do, what you've done, build a relationship, a connection. Maybe they are really rude and you know what I mean? Like, so many outcomes, but nonetheless, that's something that can happen way more frequent than you think. Maybe I'm not necessarily extroverted, I'm pretty introverted, but I also know what I want in this life, and I'm not going to stop my social anxiety. I mean, whatever, I'm not gonna die. This person's gonna be rude. Okay, whatever, I'll just leave and they'll never see me again. In the event that they do see me again, either I have to be really nice to them because I'm getting paid, or I'm equal to them, so I can be equally I can just be like, whatever, and then, or I'm above them, and then I just don't hire them. There's so many different ways that can play out. And here, that's not gonna happen. And that's why I don't like it here. Over there's so much more classes, there's so much more dance, there's so much more access to art. There's just so much more going on. It's New York, it's Manhattan. I mean, come on, I don't have to over-explain myself versus Dallas, But that's my opinion. I do still think for cost of living and the experiences that they provide, it's not a bad place at all. I was really nervous when I made the decision because I thought I would be super depressed and I thought I would hate my life and I thought I would always be in a situation that was unpleasant. But that was only the first 3 months weren't unpleasant. It just wasn't my idea. Well, no, it was unpleasant. It wasn't torture. I'm grateful for my friend, one of my best friends, that I was living with her. And when I say it was unpleasant, it wasn't my home. I didn't have a home. I'm used to living alone in my own home, and it wasn't that, period. Therefore, it wasn't pleasant. When I lived with my aunt, it was even more unpleasant. I'm grateful, but once again, it wasn't my home. I wasn't pleasant. Finally, I got my own place, and now I'm very pleasant. I'm fine. I feel good. Obviously, emotions come and go, but as far as safety, it really made me understand that everything in this life is what you make out of it. When you're going through intense situations, if you crumble and allow them to overcome you and then just don't do anything about them, yeah, you're not going to progress really far. But if you pull up them pants and just sprint and keep it pushing and don't stop, don't look back, it's going to be a positive outcome. It's going to be an outcome. It's hard for it not to be positive when you're working that hard. That's what's been very clear in my life and my experiences. If you're working hard, you're going to achieve it. There's nothing you can't do if you do not work hard for it at all. It takes time. It may take forever, but I definitely didn't think I was going to be dancing in a movie that fast, fresh out of college, but it happened. Right now, I struggle with that mindset every now and then about like imposter syndrome and if it can happen again, but it will happen again. I just have to get up and do it. It's that simple. If you want it to happen again, get up and make it happen again. But until then, you kind of can't complain because you're just allowing time to pass by. That was a lot of the guilt that I felt after the breakup because I had to focus on myself healing. I had to focus on becoming independent again because now I live on my own. I don't have I've been sharing my entire life for the last 3 years with this person, and then they just basically said fuck you and ended it all quick. So I was in a really fucked spot, but I did what I had to do. I found my job. I can transfer out of that job. I can go to Manhattan with a job. I have friends that I can stay with until I find my place. Everything really fell into place, and although it makes me angry that I know he has a head start because he fucked me over, and I'm sure his side of the story is probably different. I'm probably some like super crazy person that robbed him or whatever, but I'm sure it's embarrassing to admit a lot of these things, especially when you're an attractive person. It is what it is. I need to keep pushing, and that is why we're here. I plan on doing this every single week. I want to constantly talk about different topics, different tools that I'm using. Please share with me anything that you guys are doing. Share with me how this has impacted you. If it's impacted you, let me know. My email is in all of my socials. My socials are the same. It's the Ramon Garcia for everything and anything under any email, preferably Gmail. And yeah, not everything is going to be about my ex, you guys. This is just the first episode. Next episode, different topic. I promise you guys we're never talking about this ever again. But truthfully, it was just a really traumatic experience that solidified my understanding that I am not a child, I am an adult, and my life is long, and I have to take care of myself and my finances, and I can't rely on anybody because people are unreliable, even if it is the person that you love most, that it is closest to you, etc., etc., etc. People are cruel and will disregard you the moment they no longer care. And I understand that now. And it doesn't make me upset because that doesn't mean you have to not like people. That just means you should be your own person and be an independent person, because congratulations if you found someone that takes care of you like that. But unfortunately, not been so lucky myself. So being independent isn't the worst thing, you guys. It's a really nice feeling actually when you know that the things you've achieved have been achieved because you achieved them. I felt like a Kardashian. How many times I just the same word? But it does feel really nice because nobody can take away that feeling from you. You made that. For example, I live here because I made it happen. I have my car because I made it happen. And that feels nice because I can do whatever I want because I can make it happen. Thank you guys for hearing, and I'll tune in next time. This is Plant Space by Ramon Garcia. Bye.